up next is China. Most people don't want to accept this, but we are in a Cold War. We have an adversary, and it's Red China. And even my colleagues at the center snicker at me when I use the term Red China. They say, that's anachronistic. You can't say that. And I say, well, that's what they are. And when I'm 57 years old. I came up during the Cold War. And it wasn't such a bad thing to refer to them as Red China. And that's why I refer to them now, because that's what they are. The communists are still in charge in China. All this stuff you've heard over the years about how they're capitalists now, and they're our friends, and they're not a threat, that's a lot of horse bone. It's a lot of horse, you know what, actually. The Chinese are now basically rich communists. And they've enriched themselves thanks to everyone in this room. We have enriched our enemies. Milton Friedman was a very successful Nobel Prize winning economist. I'm sure some of you are familiar with his work. And he said something that was very instructive. He said that capitalism and free enterprise was necessary for liberty, but it was not sufficient for liberty. So what we have in China is a capitalist system coupled with a totalitarian communist political system. And out of that, we've gotten very wealthy communists who are targeting us every day. They're targeting us with cyber warfare, they're targeting us with economic warfare, and they're targeting us militarily. A lot of people do not realize the degree to which Red China has massively built up its military over the past 20 years. They were able to do this because of the meteoric rise of their economy. They became very wealthy, and they were able to modernize their military over the last 20 years. For instance, at the time of Desert Storm, China had no blue water navy to speak of. We had a very large blue water navy at the time of Desert Storm. Basically, it was Reagan's navy. He'd been out of office for a few years, but what was left of the Navy in 1990 to 1991 was a result of the Reagan defense buildup. Fast forward to today, China's Navy is about twice the size of ours now. And it's not just cheap, poorly constructed ships. They have modern equipment. They're building at a rapid rate. They have more shipyards building Navy ships right now in China than we have total shipyards in the United States building all kinds of ships. They're building nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. They're building nuclear submarines, including ballistic missile submarines. They're building destroyers and frigates modeled after our Aegis system. And they've stolen a lot of this technology from us, and they've been given some of this technology by our tech industry, unfortunately. In this day and age, there's almost nothing in the tech industry that's not dual use. And you've got big tech industries in the United States that are actually partnering with the Chinese government. When you give the Red Chinese government technical know-how to make computers faster, help them build buildings better, help them build airliners better, things like that, they can then take that same tech, and they have, and apply it to military applications. Processing speeds in computers is a key to so much today. And that has enabled them to modernize their military at an unprecedented rate. So we have enabled our enemy, the Red Chinese, to target us with modern weapons we've paid for it. So pat yourselves on the back. This is the new Cold War. You're funding both sides of this one. In the first one, you were just funding our side. But this time, you get the privilege of funding both sides. It's got to stop. And I think President Trump wants to stop it. I think he recognizes it. But there's a lot of people in the swamp, and there's a lot of people on the other side of the aisle who don't believe that. The Wuhan virus came out of that virology lab. I'm convinced of that. I don't believe anybody that says that it just occurred naturally. I don't know whether it was done intentionally or whether it was done through neglect. But I know this. When it did escape, they covered it up. They lied to the world. They put their thumb on the World Health Organization, the head of which they had installed. God from Ethiopia, who knew much about health with my 2 golden retrievers. And they lied to the world about the virus. And then they continued to allow citizens from the Wuhan area to travel internationally, but not within China. So they sent out people that spread the virus to the world. That's evil. That's just flat out evil. That's communism in a nutshell. And I'm going to get to this again when I talk about Antifa. But there was a time in my lifetime when communism was a 4-letter word. If you're a communist, that was bad. Evidently, they stopped teaching that at some point in school and in colleges. I used the term Marxist in a dialogue that I had with somebody who was of the younger generation. They didn't know that Marxism was communism. It's like we have a huge education challenge. Things that most of the people in this room, and excuse me ladies, I'm not trying to say you're old, but most of the people in this room took for granted things about communism and Marxism. And now we have to start all over again with this generation. That's how an organization like Antifa gets started. Because they're not being taught, even at LSU, that communism is a bad thing. And there's a couple of connections here. This is going to allow me to transition into Antifa. First of all, the Chinese, one of the things that they've done to influence our society and our operations governmentally and educationally is they have thrown a lot of money at our colleges and universities. For instance, and who here is an LSU fan? Right.
LSU fan. Oh.
It's not that important, but this is adding a little humor to it. You know, there were 2 universities in the United States, actually 3 universities in the United States, that partnered with the Wuhan virology lab. University of North Texas, Harvard, which you got to figure Harvard, because they're practically communist anyway. And then the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. But I shouldn't pick on any of those universities because the Chinese have thrown so much money around. There's been 54 professors in the United States who are either being investigated for or have already been indicted or have even been convicted for taking money from the Chinese government and not reporting it as government contractors. So they're working for our government and they're taking money from the Chinese and they're not telling our government. That's one of the requirements when you do work for our government. You know, if you're taking money from any foreign governments, we want to know about it. And 54 of these people just forgot. 54. 54 professors. But almost all the major universities have received foreign money. Actually, and I think Tom Shedler may or may not remember this, but when he was a state senator, we got a bill passed in Louisiana. It's the same bill we got passed in Utah and New York. And we got it done in Florida through their Board of Regents system for their universities there. Requiring state colleges and universities in Louisiana to disclose and make transparent all foreign funding and donations. One of only a few states in the whole country that did that. Now, a lot of states are interested in that for obvious reasons. Like, I've been in touch with people in Alabama. They all of a sudden want to know, well, maybe we need to figure out why someone thought it was a good idea for us to partner with the Chinese government virology lab. But one of the things that I'm going to work on with somebody here locally is to do a FOIA request to find out if LSU's been taking money from the Chinese. I would be surprised if they weren't, because they'd be an exception to the rule. I'm not trying to pick on LSU, believe me, I'm an LSU fan. But this country, we have to start getting smart again.